Hello, yes, we are live. Welcome to this channel. Um, my name is Raola Oyewole, the Vice Parent, and I am the facilitator of the Vice Parent College. You are welcome to this channel. Today, I'm talking about effective communication in parenting. Effective communication in parenting. This class is specially recorded for parents in our inner circle. Today, I'm talking about the principles of effective communication. In the last video, we discussed the principle of connection. We are looking at the principles of positive parenting, and we have talked about the principle of connection in the last class. So today, we are talking about the principle of effective communication. Now, when it comes to communication, it's a different thing when it comes to parenting because almost everything is different in parenting. So communication in parenting is different. You cannot communicate with your child the way you will communicate with your boss in the office. You cannot communicate with your child the way you will communicate with your house help or the way you communicate with your friends. So when it comes to parenting, communication it's a different thing. It's a different way. It's a different method entirely. But let's look at what communication is. The simple definition of communication is sending and receiving information or sending and receiving message. Now, as simple as that is, in most parenting relationship that I have witnessed, the communication is not balanced. Is it that the parent is just trying to send a message without necessarily expecting a feedback from the child, or the parents just receive a message from the child without giving a feedback? And communication is not one way. You give, you receive. You receive, you give. Now you need to ask yourself in your parenting relationship, are you just giving information or you are giving and receiving information? Because most parents don't want to receive information from their children. They just want to give information. Just do it like this and that is all. Just go like this and that is it. Now communication is that you send information, you send a message and you receive information or you receive a message. So the most important thing here is that you don't just send information to your child, also create avenue to receive from your child. That is how communication becomes effective in parenting. So if you are that parent who just talk, who just give instruction, and even when your child wants to talk or contribute something, you shut them up, like don't say anything, just do whatever I say. That's not good enough because you will not be able to raise a skillful child. You will not be able to raise a child that can stand up and speak for themselves. It's not bad to receive information from your child. It's not bad to receive a message from your child. It's not bad to allow your child contribute in matters. It's not a bad thing. So sending and receiving information. So you send, you receive. You send, you receive, you talk to your child, and you also expect them to talk back to you. You also listen to them. One of the things that makes communication very effective is our capacity to listen. So when you're in a conversation with somebody, it's possible you are just hearing, you are just hearing what they are saying without necessarily listening with your inner ear. So when it comes to parenting, you create avenue to send information and you also receive by listening to your child. Effective communication skill is a very important skill for every parent. We all must know how to communicate effectively with our children. We must know how to pass the message across in a way that they will understand it. We must know how to receive message for them without judging them or and without criticizing them. We must know that we are dealing with children and we must know their communication method and their communication system and then understand how to interpret whatever they are saying to us effectively. So communication in parenting, like I said, is a different approach entirely. You cannot approach it the way you approach every other communication because you are dealing with children and your children are still growing. You know, children are they are in different developmental milestone. So this the way they receive information and understand information at different stages of their lives differs. So when it comes to parenting, you need to learn effective communication because it's a skill that every parent must have. It's a skill that every parent must learn. Lack of effective communication will help you, will make you misunderstand your child and also make your child to also misunderstand you. So if there is no effective communication in any relationship whatsoever, that misunderstanding becomes the order of the day. Anger becomes the ruler of that relationship. But when there is effective communication, you get my information, you get my message, I get your information, you get my information, my message. Then that makes the relationship very easy and smooth. So in your parenting relationship, if you are not paying attention to your communication system, your communication method, you will see that there will be strife most of the time, even when you don't plan it that way. So you must know how to communicate with your child and how to allow your child communicate back to you. I think that's the first point I want to bring to you today. Don't just communicate, don't just send message. Receive feedback from your child. Listen to them. I mean, let them tell you how they feel and you reason with their feeling, you understand their feeling. Don't judge them, don't shut them up. It's very important that you allow your communication to be very, very sound when it comes to parenting. Now, I'm going to be giving some tips that will help you to communicate effectively. Tips that will help you to communicate effectively. Number one, know your child. Now, there are some basic things that you must know about your child. This knowing your child will help your communication strategy to be very effective because when you know your child, you know the kind of child you are dealing with. Then you know how to communicate with that child better. Some children are strong willed, some children are compliant, some children are introverts, some are extroverts. Some children will talk back to you, some will not talk. Some don't know how to express themselves in words. They use other ways to express themselves. So this communication skill is very important because you must know how your child communicates. Now, the first thing you need to know about your child when it comes to the ability to communicate with them effectively is that you must understand your child's developmental milestone and know the best way to communicate at that level. Now, what I mean by developmental milestone is are you dealing with an infant? Are you dealing with a toddler? Are you dealing with a preschooler or a school age? Are you dealing with early childhood 8 to 10? Are you dealing with a preteen? Are you dealing with a teenager? So understanding that developmental milestone of the child you are communicating, you're trying to communicate with, will help you a lot to know how to communicate. The way you communicate with a toddler is different from the way you communicate with a teenager. It's just there's a whole lot of difference. You also need to consider your child's gender. There is a way you communicate with a girl child that the girl child will understand it. Like you communicate with a boy that way, they may not understand it. So knowing your child, you know your child's developmental milestone, you understand the gender differences, you understand the personality of your child. Yes, is your child an extrovert? Is your child an introvert? Is your child compliance or non-compliance? Is your child a systematic child, a creative child? You need to understand your child's personality. It will help you in communication. You need to understand your child's learning style. You need to understand your child's love language. So all these things, this understanding will help you to know how to effectively communicate with the child that you are trying to reach. So the first thing you want to do is understand your child. If you don't understand your child, if you don't understand the person you are parenting, it will be very hard for you to communicate effectively. I mean, you will mess up your communication system when you don't pay attention to the person you are parenting. And that's why we cannot overemphasize this aspect of knowing your child, knowing who you are parenting. So the first thing is, okay, am I communicating for instance, okay, I'm communicating with a toddler. Let's say you have a toddler. Then you need to understand that when you are communicating with a toddler, you have to come down to their level. You need to understand that a toddler struggles with emotions a lot. A toddler struggles with expressing themselves. They don't know how to, sometimes a toddler doesn't know how to say I'm hungry. They just use crying, they just use tantrum to communicate. They use tantrum to communicate anxiety. So your child, when you are communicating with a toddler, you need to understand those milestones and the challenges that the toddler is facing. Then you are able to come down to their level and communicate in a way that they will understand. For instance, you want your toddler to clean up the room, and you just walk into the room and you are like, oh, clean up your room. A toddler doesn't understand clean up your room. If you want to communicate with a toddler that way, you have to say it one after the other. Okay, right now I want you to make your bed. Then after that, I want you to pick up the Legos or pick up your toys, pack your toys inside the the, the toy box. That is how to communicate with a toddler. A toddler doesn't understand clean up your room. You see now, but if you don't know, you will just be like, oh, your room is not well arranged. Arrange your room. The child is thinking, oh, I should arrange my room. How? But when you give specific instruction to a toddler, then they understand you better. So if you are going to communicate well, you must know your child, know their developmental milestone, and know who you are communicating with. That's number one. Number two thing that will help you in effective communication is that the communication system in the family. You must model and foster a very good communication system in the family. If your communication system in the family is shouting and yelling, that is the way your child will also communicate back to you. Most of the time when we complain about how children talk to us, how they communicate back to us, they learn it from somewhere. It's that they learn it from a friend, they learn it from the neighborhood, they learn it from the school. So even if you are communicating well and you see your child not communicating well with you, know that that communication system is learned from somewhere. So in the family, you must make sure that you have a very good communication system. You understand? Not just communicating with anger. If you are always shouting and yelling in the home, your child will definitely pick up that system of communication. But if you allow effective communication, talking to your child and receiving back from them, you always want to listen, you always want to hear your child out, then you will realize that your the way your child will communicate back to you will also be a very effective way. If you are the type that tell your child, okay, calm down, let's talk about it, I want to hear you out, I want to know how you feel, you will realize that as your child is growing, they understand how to communicate better. But if what you are doing is just shouting, the child is not understanding you, you are not understanding the child, as your child grows, they will not know how to communicate any better. So look at your family, you know, the way you communicate with your spouse, the way you communicate with people in your neighborhood, the way you make children see communication and understand communication, it matters a lot. It matters a lot. So we must model good communication. And as we model it, our children will now begin to learn, how to communicate very well. Number three, strive for emotional mastery. Yes, you must strive for emotional mastery when it comes to communication in parenting. If you are not mastering your emotions and you are not helping your child master their emotions and getting better at managing emotions, the communication system will be messed up. So it's not everything that you attack the way it is happening. It's not everything that you react based on how you feel or how your child is behaving. So when you strive for emotional mastery, you will begin to communicate better. You begin to say, okay, let's talk about this later, or okay, what do you think we can do? You understand? So it's not just about not understanding your child. Even when you don't understand your child, still calm down. Because sometimes when you cannot communicate well, there is tendency for to lose control, and you are just stranded and you're like, oh, how do I communicate this? Learn to calm down, learn to control your emotions. So when you learn emotional mastery and you learn to control your emotions, your communication becomes better and your child will understand you better. And even you will understand your child better. So striving for emotional mastery helps your communication in parenting. Because if you lack emotional intelligence, your judgment will be clouded. You know, you misunderstand easily. You misunderstand your child easily, and your child will not also understand you, because you are acting based on how you feel. Sometimes the reason you yell, you shout, is because you cannot control your emotions, not necessarily because you are supposed to shout. So when you cannot control your emotions, yelling, shouting, shaming, and all those things, beating, becomes your way of communication, because you are losing your language. So, but when you learn to control your emotion, calm down and say, okay, how do I deal with it? Then you now know that, okay, I think I need to communicate like this. I need to tell my child this. I need to let my child know this and this, so that my child will understand me. That is when you begin to think of how to put a rule in place, how to, organize a plan, how to create a way, to solve the problem. And that makes your communication effective. So that is very, very important. So let love guide your communication. The two major emotions that guide every relationship is love and anger. Let love guide your emotions. Let love guide your communication in parenting. Don't communicate out of your feelings. Don't just say things the way because you feel that way. No. Say it in a way that it will not hurt your child. That's love. So you communicate in love. Let love guide your parenting. Let love be the emotion that guide your parenting, not yelling and shouting. If yelling and shouting and everything is what you always do, you are not helping your child develop, you are not helping their mental health, you are not helping them even on how they will manage their emotions. So that is very, very important. So communication, effective communication affects every relationship. And if you are going to communicate effectively, you must be able to gain mastery over your emotions. Now, I want to go to how to communicate. How to communicate with your child. I've mentioned that you must know your child, you must model effective communication and good communication system in your family. And I've also mentioned that you must master your emotions. Now, when it comes to understanding how to communicate with your child, you need to understand that there are different ways of communication. We have the verbal communication, we have the non-verbal communication. Now, when it comes to communication, you have to learn to communicate both ways. You have to also learn to receive information from your child both ways. There are things children will not say, but they will say with their action. Sometimes a child is displeased with something. The child may not necessarily come to you and say, "Oh, mommy, I'm displeased." But maybe they say it with their action. Even we adults, we do it sometimes. You don't talk, but your action is speaking. That is a non-verbal communication. When it comes to parenting, you combine both, and you also hear from both. Sometimes your child is showing a displeased, maybe the child is not so happy about something, and you just ignore because your child is not talking. No, don't ignore your child's reaction because you feel the child is not talking. Because verbal communication is when you use words and you use tones to communicate. Non-verbal communication is when you use gesture. You use your facial expression. You use body contact, like hugging, and to just communicate how you feel. So you don't ignore the non-verbal communication. You pay attention to both the verbal communication and the non-verbal communication, the eye contact, the facial expression, the gesture, the words, the tone. Your child is looking down and you look away. Don't no 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 no, pay attention to that. The child is just looking down and you feel like, okay, it's okay to look down because I'm your mom. That's very important, because a child may be looking down out of lack of self-esteem and self-confidence. A child cannot speak up for him or herself, and you be like, okay, let's just overlook it. Don't overlook things like that. So you must be able to communicate both ways and also receive a message from your child both ways, both the verbal communication and the non-verbal communication. That's very important, because sometimes as parents we want to ignore what the child is not saying. It's important that we pay attention to their reactions, to their gesture, their facial expression. It's important that we pay attention to it, and we even see it as as a way of communication. Like, this child is actually communicating something to me. Number two, be clear about what you want to communicate. Many a times as parents, you want to communicate something, but you are not clear about what you want to communicate. That's why I said gaining emotional mastery will help you in situations like this. You don't know what you want, you don't even know how to communicate yet. Then calm down, take your time, get clarity on the message you want to pass across. Oh, the message I want to pass across to you is that I want you to know that it is not good to waste water. It is not good to waste food. Any food you cannot finish, just come and give it to me, and we can keep it and you eat it later. That's clear communication, not just shouting. Don't you know it's not good to be wasting food? Don't you know? Don't you know? If you keep saying don't you know, the child does not know really. So sometimes don't you know, yeah, about what you want to communicate. You have to be clear about what you want to say. I gave the example of the other time about talking to a toddler. You have to be clear, okay, pick up the toys, or take the call to the kitchen or at the table. I want you to take that book and read. Okay, you have to be clear. Be clear about what you are trying to say. Even when you want to teach something, be pass across. Be calm and clear. That's where I put it. Be calm and clear. The message you want to pass across. So if you are not clear yet, don't start. If you don't know what you want to say yet, don't start, so that you don't begin to communicate in this situation. The reason why you or out of anger is because you don't know how to communicate, or you don't know what you want to communicate, or you don't know the best way to communicate what you're trying to communicate. So when you fix your communication system in parenting, you'll be able to use the positive parenting method. We are looking at the principles of positive parenting, and communication is one of it. Good communication is one of it. Very, very important. Then number three, engage the magic of listening. Yes, your child wants to be heard. Give them a voice. Your child wants to be heard. Give them a voice. Give your child a voice. Let them speak up. And when they are speaking, please listen. Please listen. I know some of us, the way we're raised is the way of shut up. When I'm talking, you don't talk. It's okay to listen to your child. It's okay to also tell your child, okay, now listen to my points, listen to what I have to say. In fact, it is a skill that you must teach your child as they grow. Listening skill. So you teach them to listen to you, you also listen to them. When you listen to your child, you're also teaching them how to also listen to you. So engage the magic of listening. There can't be effective communication without effective listening. And listening is also a skill. You see, listening is also a we don't know how to listen. Sometimes we think we are listening, but we are not really listening. So this for self-confidence, give room for expression. Listen, I mean, hear them out. Something happened, before you conclude on anything, them out. I know we sometimes, as parents, we sometimes conclude, it's very important. Listening skill. Listen to your child and hear their view. Hear what they have to say. Hear their expectation. Judging and thinking this child is just intentionally disobeying me or intentionally doing this. Why not hear them out? Maybe there is something the child does not understand. Maybe there is something they are not getting. Maybe they don't even know some things that you think they already know. So this is a magic. Use the magic of listening, hearing them out, hearing their views, understanding their perspective. Oh, mommy, this is the way I see it. Oh, mommy, this is what I think. This my child, and I realize that okay, this is actually the challenge. This is actually the problem that we need to fix. So listening to your child. When it comes to listening, we have active listening. Active listening is when you listen with your heart and you express genuine gesture and empathy. That's active listening. Active listening is when you really listen, not to judge. You really listen with your heart and you want to hear clearly the perspective of your child. When you are listening and you are engaging this active listening, you don't interrupt your child. Let them say all of their mind. Let them say their mind. Don't interrupt them and say, shut up. That's not how it is. Hear them out first, clearly, before you can now conclude on, oh, that's not how it is. This is how you are supposed to do it. Listening. Your capacity to interact with your child active listening. You really want to hear them out. So listening is not just about saying, say you're part of the situation or of the story. Why do you do this? How do you do this? When you listen, you talk back, you interact at their level. Then when you do that, you're able to you know how to help your child better when you engage active listening. The next one is reflective listening. Now, reflective listening is the ability to reflect on the information you have gotten and then you give a corresponding feedback based on what you heard. Now, this involves our feelings. Oh, when you say things like, oh, okay, I now understand that you actually don't know how to open the bottle. I now understand that you don't know how to do this particular thing. Oh, okay, okay. So that means you did this because of this. So you are giving a reflection to what you have had. And then your child is now picking that, okay, now you understand, and now you know what I'm trying to say. And passing information across to let your child understand you, you communicate with your feelings, you use eye contact, you use a lot of things just to make your child understand that this is not just a joke. Let there be a difference between when you are joking and when you are not joking. So that is very, very important. So you give a reflective feeling or an emotion when you understand what your child is trying to say. So you engage active listening, you engage reflective listening. That's number two. Engage the miracle or the magic of listening. Number three is express and validate your child's feelings. Let them express their feelings, express your feelings and validate the feelings. Yes, your child is feeling and validate the feelings. Validating feelings helps both in emotional mastery and in communication. It means you understand your child. It's as simple as that. It means that you understand how they feel. Yeah, you can't communicate effectively if you don't know how somebody feels. So you must understand how your child feels about the situation. So when you validate their emotions, it makes communication better because you now know how to help them deal with that emotion. You now know how to communicate better. You now know the way you will communicate and your child will understand you. But if you don't validate emotion, the child is crying and you don't want to validate that emotion, you just want to pass your information across. And you're like, if you like, pick up the toys. If you like, don't pick it up. No, no, that's not communication. That's not communication. You are taking something, you are taking a phone away from the child, and you expect the child not to express emotion. The child will express emotion. You are the one that will now come down to their level and tell them, okay, I understand how you feel. I know you are feeling sad because the springtime is over. I know you are not feeling happy because I didn't give you the candy, but you cannot continue to eat candy, all the time. Maybe tomorrow or in 2 days' time, I will give you another candy. That is validating your child's feelings. Don't suppress their feelings. Don't just say, stop crying. Why are you crying? Try it as much as possible to allow them express their feelings and then validate whatever it is that they express. This is also a skill that will help them in developing their emotions. It will help them gain emotional mastery. So, teaching your child to express their emotion and validating their emotions is a very, very important skill that helps in both communication and emotional intelligence. And this emotional intelligence is a great skill that helps them put words to feelings. Children struggle with putting words to feelings, especially between that age of age 1 to around 5, 6. They don't know how to put words to their feelings. A child is feeling anxious. If the child doesn't know how to say, oh, I'm feeling anxious. Sometimes the child is feeling sad. He doesn't know how to say, I'm feeling sad. He just start to cry. So children don't know how to put words to feelings. And when you help them put words to their feelings, you are teaching them effective communication, and you're also teaching them emotional development. For example, a toddler can throw tantrums because the child is hungry, and you will not even know. You might be thinking it's something else. If you don't pay attention and try to trace the source of the tantrum, you will just feel like, oh, this child is just throwing tantrums. There's no tantrums without a cause. Something must be the cause. Sometimes children cry and they themselves don't know why they are crying. I have seen that happen a lot of times. That even the child cannot say, oh, this is why I am crying. So you help them look for words to put, into their action and their feelings. Sometimes my daughter comes to me and she'll be like, mommy, what should I do? She'll be coming to me, oh mommy, what should I do? What should I and so and at a point I was able to tell her, okay, now I understand you are feeling bored. Because she was trying to communicate the fact that she's feeling bored, but she does not know how to say I am feeling bored because they don't have many words. They are still learning words. So when she started behaving like that, I just like, okay, you are this girl is feeling bored. And then I begin to give her attention. Sometimes she just need attention. And the child doesn't know how to say, I need attention. And the child just starts crying, throwing tantrums, hugging you, holding you. You're like, do you want to eat? You don't understand the child. So when you help them put words to their feelings, you are helping them to communicate better and also to put words to their feelings. And that is very, very important. Things not to do while you are communicating with your child. There are some things you should not do when you are trying to communicate with your child. Number one, don't shut your child up. Don't push them. Don't push your child. Mm, that's not good. No matter how tense the situation is, still try to give them space. Give them that space. Give your child that space to communicate and express feelings. If it's a situation where you cannot handle, maybe the child is rolling on the floor, you can take the child and put them in a very separate place, in a secluded place, maybe on the bed in the room, or in a corner, and tell the child, okay, when you calm down, then you can come to me and we'll talk. You understand? Depending on the cause of the tantrum or anything. But don't shut your child up and say, keep quiet. When you shut them up, it's a way of killing their self-esteem and self-confidence, because a child that is constantly pushed and you're always telling your child to keep quiet. When they get outside, they will not be able to speak up. They will not be able to say no when they are supposed to say no. They will not be able to speak up. They become afraid. They become, they begin to have low self-esteem. So don't shut your child up. Listen to them, let them express themselves. Let them express themselves. And that's why I said put a very good communication system up in the home. Okay, this is how we communicate. You listen to me, I listen to you. As they grow, they will understand what you're trying to say. So don't say things like shut up, um, um, keep quiet. When we say things like that and the child keeps quiet, it may not be very good, on the other side. When it comes to some other skills, it will affect that child. It will affect the child. So you can say things like wait and calm down first. You can say things like calm down, calm down. Instead of saying shut up, you can say calm down. You can say listen. You can use other words to let your child know that I need you to hear me, not shutting them up, not saying shut up, keep quiet, because you think you are just the parents and children are not supposed to be heard. Just obey, just do whatever I say. Your child wants to be heard. So, and it's very important that you hear them out. It will help their self-confidence, it will help their self-esteem, it will help their communication, it will help their emotions, a lot of things. There are some little things that we do in parenting that affect the child a lot that we don't pay attention to. So don't say things like shut up. Instead of that, tell the child, okay, wait, go and sit down, calm down, I will listen to you, I will hear you out. When you calm down, then we can talk, then you can listen to me and I can listen to you. If you realize that the communication is not flowing well, then the two of you should calm down first, then later talk about it. So communicate with calmness, not aggression. When you communicate with aggression, your child doesn't understand you. So you have to learn to be calm. You have to learn to communicate with calmness and not just aggression. And that is very, very important. Communicate with calmness, not aggression. Avoid shouting. As much as possible, when you are communicating with your child, avoid shouting at the top of your voice. When we shout like that, children don't understand us. They don't. Then another thing you should not do when you are communicating is don't label your child according to a bad behavior. Learn to separate your child from the behavior. Your child is not a thief. Your child is not dirty. You understand? Your child is not a bastard. Just learn to separate the behavior from the child. Oh, your cloth is dirty, not you are a dirty girl. So it is important that you learn to separate the behavior from the child when you are communicating with your child. So don't say things like, "Oh, you are a thief." Look, your child is not a thief. Your child might have behaved in a way that is not acceptable. We understand. So let your child know that this behavior is not good and is not acceptable. But don't label your child after the behavior, because your child is not the behavior. The behavior is the behavior, your child is your child. Your child is good, your child is okay, your child is fine, your child is beautiful, your child is well behaved, because you must see a positive child in your child. So when bad behavior show up, you must learn to separate that behavior and say, oh, this behavior is not my child. Then we are going to deal with this behavior. So instead of saying, "Oh, you are a very rough and dirty girl," why not say things like, "Your room looks beautiful when you keep it clean. If you arrange your toys very well, do you realize it looks beautiful? Your room looks more conducive when everything is well arranged." That is it. So you need to understand separating your child from the behavior. And that is another very important um, way and skill you want to bring into your communication system. We have come to the end of this class, and I believe you are been able to pick something from this class. You have been able to learn one or two things that will help you communicate better when you are communicating with your child, and that is very, very important. Thank you so much. Please drop your comments and let me know what you learned and what you picked from this video. All right, bye.